What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the PickSwap Media YouTube channel. My name is Sean Bernard as usual, and I'm excited to announce that for this video, we have partnered with WHOP.com, WHOP.com. WHOP is an all-in-one marketplace for sports communities and other digital products. If you're looking to find communities on all things sports, sports capping, sports betting, and sports fandom, head to WHOP.com/sports. They're the all-in-one digital marketplace, the Amazon of the future for digital products. I'm incredibly proud and excited to be partnering, so make sure to go check that out. You can click the link in our description and our comments. Thank you to WAP for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you guys for tuning in.
Going down the field, can they do it again? Yes, they can!
And the catch is made by Taj Washington. Touchdown, USC.
Blocked by Embiid! Timmy, yes!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Upfront podcast here on PickSwap Media. This is your host, Ryan Coyle, joined as always by Joey Jets, and with a special guest tonight, legend Tony Harding. First time here on this show. Welcome to the show, fellas, and how are we?
Fantastic.
Yeah, man, it's going good. Ready to talk some hoops?
So we'll be getting into our normal show that we do every week, our top 10 games of the weekend for college basketball, as well as our bracketology segment now that we've been doing now for the second straight week. Just to recap last week real quick, Beef Up Front himself is staying strong. Back-to-back 20-10 weeks, 8-2 straight up. Joe, you went 14-16 last week, 6-4 straight up. So we'll need a little bit of work from you, Joey.
I mean, it's expected, Beef. I mean, this is your sport. I defer after the college football season.
All right, before we get into this week's games, we'll go over the blind resume game as always. All right, Team 1. This is in the last four in as of right now in Jerry Palm's latest bracket on the 23rd. 15-5 overall, 55 in the net, 59 in KenPom. 3-2 in quad 1, 2-2 in quad 2, 5-0 quad 3, 5-1 quad 4. Team 2 is in the first four out, and they are 12-7, 42 in the net, 39 in KenPom, 3-6 quad 1, 1-1 quad 2, 1-0 quad 3, 7-0 quad 4. So, Tony, who would you be putting in out of those two?
Guess you'll have to go with Team A. What stands out to me, I guess, is taking care of business against the lower teams, quad 4 teams, and then squeaking out some probably tight games. It depends what conference they're in, too, who they're playing, who the tougher teams they're playing are.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go Team A as well. You said Team B was 12-7. I feel like if the tournament were today, that's not exactly the greatest record in the world. Even if you are in a really tough conference, you got to up, but they're in a perfect position right now, you know, for going into February next week. I would go Team A as well.
Team A was Arizona State. Team B was Maryland. So, I mean, when you look at Maryland, though, I think they have more opportunities coming up to get some better wins. And that's also evidence of their 3-6 quad 1 record. They've played in 4 more quad 1 games. And they're also substantially higher in the net in KenPom, which I feel like the metrics are getting valued more and more in these bracket situations, right, I guess, and the resumes. So it's going to be interesting to see come March and Selection Sunday. But those two teams are firmly on the bubble. I've seen a few different brackets that have like Maryland safely in, Arizona safely in. So to see them kind of on the bubble there is interesting. But we'll get into our top 10 games of the week now. Starting off on Saturday, got 8 Saturday games, 2 Sunday games. We'll start off in the Big East. Number 13, Xavier, 16-4 at Creighton, who's 11-8, but in most tournament brackets as of now. 12:15 tip on CBS. Projected score here from Haslam Metrics has it 80-75 Creighton. So we'll set it at Creighton minus 4.5. Over under 154.5. Both these teams are playing tonight on Wednesday. Xavier playing UConn and Creighton playing St. John's.
Yeah, I think for Xavier, I mean, they're at UConn in about an hour. Then they got to go out to Omaha and play Creighton. And I gave out the stat a couple weeks ago. The top 5 teams in the Big East at the time were Marquette, Xavier, Creighton, UConn, and Providence. All those teams at home undefeated when they played each other. So I'm going to keep that trend going here. I got Creighton 88, Xavier 85. So I'll take Xavier to cover that 4.5 points. I'll take the over. And I'm just going to stick with that trend. I feel like, the Big East is going to be really tough. And I also, Coyle, you and I kind of like picking the team with their backs against the wall. Creighton's sitting here with an 11-8. They really got to make some moves if they're going to want to make the tournament come March.
Yeah, everyone slotted Creighton as almost a shoo-in for the tournament in the preseason with their roster. I guess things just haven't clicked. Same as you, though. I'm going to go with Creighton here, 77-72. So that's Creighton to cover and the under 154.5. I just think it's a must-win, and they're a good enough team to win. With some veterans out there, they realize they have to win, so I think they could get it done.
Yes, clean sweep across the board here. I'm taking Creighton, but I'll go with Xavier to cover and the over hitting. Give me 84-80 Creighton. Should be a really fun game between two highly talented offensive teams. Not sure really how much defense we're going to be seeing in this one, but I think personally Xavier is the best team in the Big East, but Creighton has an argument to be the best team when healthy as well. They are just starting to really get healthy, I think, though, and round into form. They just need to get in the dance. They're one of those teams that if they get in and they're like the 10 seed, no number 2 seed is going to want to see them in the second round. But they're already sitting here with 8 losses. They don't have much room to slip up. So must-win spot, I think. And, Joe, as you said, back against the wall, and especially at home, this team is historically very good at home. And Xavier usually struggles outside of their arena. So I'll take Creighton to win as well, but give me Xavier to cover.
Yeah.
Second game of the week, we go to – it's a big week in college basketball with the Big 12 SEC Challenge. This Saturday slate is kind of loaded with those games. Number 12, Iowa State, continues to be one of the surprise teams in college basketball this year, 15-4. At Mizzou, another surprise team at 15-5. 2 o'clock tip, ESPN2. Projected score here, 70-69 Iowa State. So we'll set it at Iowa State minus 1.5, over under 138.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take my Nick McClay's Cyclones here, 63-61. So I'll have them cover that 1.5. I'll take the under. This is just a gritty Iowa State team. I love it. They're only allowing 59.5 points per game. And it's kind of like how you talk about the SEC in football. It's tough to pick against the Big 12 out of conference. I mean, TCU, when I looked at standings last night, was 6th in the conference, and they're, I believe, number 11 in the country. I mean, the Big 12 is just so loaded. You have the 7, 8, and 9th place teams all on the bubble for March Madness, according to most bracketologists. I mean, it's going to be tough to pick against any of the Big 12 teams this weekend. So I'm going to stick with Iowa State here, even though I think I'm going to be a minority.
Yeah. I watched Iowa State play Kansas State last night. They just look like they know how to win games down the stretch. They make big shots. I guess they're tough. They're real tough on defense. But that being said, though, I'm going to go Mizzou here, 70-67. So Mizzou to cover and the under 138.5. I think, in a way, the SEC is underrated as to how they play out of conference. And I also think in the Big 12, I mean, all those games are tight. They're tight games. So I think it could be like a slip up here for Iowa State.
I like Mizzou to win here too, Tony. I got them 74-68. So Mizzou covers out plus 1.5, but the over hitting. This was one of the tougher picks, I think, for me this weekend, a real toss-up. The Cyclones continue to get it done. When you watch, like, just talent-wise on the Big 12, they might be the least talented roster, but they just find a way, like you said, Tony, to just get victories. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. But Mizzou, on the other hand, another team that's a program on the rise, and they've been building a really good home court advantage over the course of this season. They've shown some really good crowds down there. Iowa State is 2-3 on the road this year. They do most of their damage at home at Hilton. So Mizzou being another team that's kind of on that bubble range, even though they sit at 15-5, they don't have that much room for slip up. They'll probably be like a 8 or 9 seed, I would say, if they kind of stay where they are and they lose like 9-10 games. But they need a win here, and Iowa State coming off a big emotional win the other night against Kansas State, a top 5 team in the country. I'll take the Tigers at home here in this one with the upset outright. Stay with the SEC Big 12 Challenge now. Number 2, Alabama at 17-2 at Oklahoma, who's been slipping recently, 11-9. 2 o'clock tip here, ESPN. Projected score is Alabama 75, Oklahoma 68. So Bama minus 6.5, over under 142.5. Alabama playing tonight on Wednesday versus Mississippi State.
I'm going to take Alabama here in a pretty easy win, 84-71. So I'll have them covering that 6.5, and I'll take the over 142.5. This is just an straight. They had a golden opportunity last week because they had them on their game against Baylor, and they, 2-point loss is really tough. But the beauty of the regular schedule and getting a team like Bama in this crossover challenge here, they have so many opportunities left. So even if they lose this game, they'll be 11-10. They'll still probably be in that next 4 out range, just because it's that tough. I love the Groves brothers. I hope they can somehow sneak into the tournament because I would love to see one last run. That 2020 game when they were at Eastern Washington against Kansas was electric. I would just love to see one more run from them, but I don't think they have enough talent to get it done against Alabama.
Yeah, I think Bama just has too much for Oklahoma to handle, honestly. So I'll have Bama to cover. Bama 77, Oklahoma 69. Take the over. I think Bama just runs them out of the gym. Porter Moser could keep it close. I really like him as a head coach. I think he could keep it close here, but how close can it be? I don't know. I think Brandon Miller, the talent just takes over in the speed up and down.
Yeah, I like Bama as well, covering minus 6.5, under 142.5, though I'll take by a hook. I'll go Bama 78, Oklahoma 64. Oklahoma really has struggled since Big 12 play started, and that should be taken with a grain of salt. It's such a tough conference where if they were in most conferences, they would probably be like a top 3 or 4 team, I think. But just as easily as they're losing games now, they could kind of flip a switch, and they could use this as one of those momentum games at home. But I just don't think it happens. But, Joe, this was going back to last year. I forget which team it was. It actually might have been Oklahoma, but they were like 19-14, and they were still like first 4 out or something. I could see it being like Oklahoma gets in at 19-14, and then a team like FAU or Charleston, if they don't win their conference tournament, gets on the outside and all hell breaks loose. But
yeah, the resume there will get them in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's almost like a quality loss if you think about it when they lose to these teams by less than 5 points.
Mm-hmm. It'll be like a 3 or 4 loss like Florida Atlantic team at like 25 or 28-3, and they get left out, but 19-14 Oklahoma get in, and that's when all the people who haven't tuned into college basketball all year come in and give their 2 cents on the subject. But when you look at Alabama, they are 6-0 on the road this year, which is an area they've struggled with in the past under Nate Oates. I think that kind of shows the next level that they're taking as a program here, sitting up at number 2 in the polls. 2 contrasting styles, though. Oklahoma plays at one of the slower paces in the country, and Alabama loves to get up and down the floor. I think Bama, like you, Tony, just more talented. I think that they're just rolling right now, no pun intended there, but they've won 8 of their last 8. They won their last 8 games by double digits. I think they make it 9 here, winning by 14. So give me Alabama to win, to cover, and the under to hit. Another Big 12 SEC game, 14-6, Arkansas at number 17, Baylor, who's 15-5. 4 o'clock tip on ESPN. Projected score here is Baylor 77, Arkansas 70. So we'll go Baylor minus 6.5, over under 146.5.
Yeah, this is a Baylor team that's quietly on a 5-game win streak, kind of riding the ship. They lost 3 in a row to start Big 12 play, but coming three road wins in this stretch at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, and then at Oklahoma, which we just talked about. Coming off a massive win on Monday night, Kansas. This is a Baylor team. They've been here before. We saw them in 2020. They ran their way to a national title. I'm going to go Baylor 72, Arkansas 61, and this is no shot at Musselman and his guys over in Arkansas. They're a good team. I just think going on the road to Baylor, on national TV, it's going to be another big crowd like we saw on Monday night. Maybe take Arkansas first half spread, coming off an emotional win on Monday. It might take them a little bit to get going, but I think this is a game Baylor's going to pull away in the second half. So I'll take them to cover that 6.5, 72-61. I have Baylor winning, and I'm going to take the under of 146.5.
Yeah, I think Arkansas is too young to beat Baylor. I mean, the experience of the guards for Baylor is pretty impressive to watch. Those guys knock down big shots the whole game, and they're really able to control the tempo of the game. I'm going to go Baylor 77, Arkansas 64. So Baylor to cover the 6.5 and the under as well. I don't know. Arkansas, I guess the freshmen this year just haven't clicked completely yet. They have all the talent. I know Smith has been injured, but they I think come tournament time they could be dangerous if they figure it out.
I like Baylor to win too. I'm with you though, Tony, where if they are able to get some guys back, and I think though if they're going to get Smith back, it has to be within the next week or so, 2 weeks, because you don't want to be going into the conference tournament and trying to throw a guy back into your starting lineup. Like I think it's either because I've heard he's like out in LA rehabbing his knee and whatnot. I think it's like one of those things where
it's either all in or not.
Yeah, 1 foot out the door, 1 foot in. It's got to be like, we need you back here, and if you're going to play, we need to get you ready for the stretch run coming up, because they do have the talent, but they have had these kind of lulls under Musselman in like the middle of the season, and that kind of, I guess, happens when you hit that proverbial like freshman wall, because he usually has a lot of.
That's what they say. You're going the whole time.
But I like Baylor to win, but Arkansas would make it tough and cover plus 6.5, under 146.5. So I'll go Baylor 74, Arkansas 70. I kind of ruled out Arkansas, but here they come. Might be adapting to this new lineup a little bit with Smith and Trayvon Brazile both out. Those were two of the key cogs for this team, and now you really just kind of, I guess, got to transform your identity. They did lose 4 in a row, but have won their last 2. Last year, I was looking at their schedule from last year. They lost 3 in a row at the end of December into the beginning of January, and then they ripped off 9 straight victories. I don't think that they have the team right now with not as many veterans to go on that kind of run this year. And so I'm going to take them to get tripped up by Baylor here. And they are also 0-4 on the road this year. And I think this Baylor team has turned the corner. They were my national title pick at the beginning of the year. And just the combination of the young freshman Keontae George and the older experienced guards in LJ Cryer and Flagler, I think that's too much. And as we always kind of say on the show, guard play is what's going to carry you throughout this sport. So give me Baylor to win here, but I think Arkansas, with this kind of newfound identity a little bit, is able to keep it close and cover with Anthony Blackley in the way. All right, a team we haven't talked about all year, but one of the better stories in college basketball is Charleston. We have them on the show for the first time. Hofstra at 13-8 at number 18, Charleston, who's 21-1, riding a 20-game win streak. 4 o'clock tip here. Projected score is Charleston 75, Hofstra 68. So Charleston minus 6.5, over under 142.5. Hofstra is playing on Thursday night versus Elon before this game.
Yeah, this is a game, you don't overthink it. I'm going to go Charleston 88, Hofstra 66. Have Charleston cover that 6.5. I'll take the over 142.5. 20-game win streak, undefeated at home. They're only lost at USC. And this is a game that averages 8 points a game, and their leading scorer, Dalton Bolin, is averaging 13.2 points a game. They don't have a true star. They're a very balanced team. That's what's going to make them a threat come March if they do end up making the tournament. And that's why they've just been so dominant this year. You know, they don't have to rely on a single guy to get all their points. Now, Coyle, like you said, come back and harm them late in the game. You know, you might not have that one dog. You might not have that Tony Harding that you can go to late in the game.
Yeah, right.
But you have a very balanced team that can set you up for success come March.
Right. Yeah. So Charleston, I guess, is one of these mid-major teams that everyone comes back and they're old and they develop into a good solid team, and now they're just killing it. So like Joe said, I'm not going to overthink this. I'll go Charleston 78, Hofstra 70. Charleston to cover, take the over as well. They do get up and down. I see they score a lot of points. Like you said, though, it's a balanced attack. It's not one guy going out and getting his 25. But issues can arise from that, like you said, late in games when you're not just running sets for one guy that you know is going to go get you a bucket.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like 2 of Charleston's top scorers right now are Division II transfers, which is pretty unheard of. Like it's like the CAA is still like a mid-major kind of where it's solid. It's not as like bad as some of like the low major schools, but I mean that's pretty crazy to be on a Division II transfer and then go to a team that's been as good as Charleston. I think that's pretty crazy. I'll take Charleston to win 81-72. Charleston minus 6.5, over 142.5. A very fun game down the line, going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier with FAU and maybe like Oklahoma getting in over them or something, would be if like FAU and Charleston both didn't win their conference tournaments. So they put them both in like the first 4 game, and then those 2 mid-majors have to battle it out to go to the round of 64. I think that would be cool. But Charleston riding a 20-game win streak, up tempo, averaging 80 points per game, 31st best in the country. Only 7 of those wins over that 20-win span have come by single digits. They've just been blowing out a lot of the teams. Hofstra, though, a pretty strong program in this conference, have won 2 out of the last 5 regular season championships. So this game won't be like a pushover. I think Hofstra puts up a pretty good fight, as like Charleston's now, I guess, the team to beat in the conference. They're going to get everyone's best shot, but I do like Charleston to kind of pull away at home here, 81-72. We go to the ACC now. Number 20, Miami, 16-4 at Pitt, 13-7 in the bubble conversation come late January. That's a upgrade for what they've been recently. 4:00 on ESPNU. Projected score here: Pitt winning by 1, 75-74. So Pitt minus 1.5, over under 148.5. Pitt versus Wake on Wednesday night. So that the Pitt record will be a little bit different, but that's a huge game in the bubble itself.
I'm going to take Pitt for that exact reason, Coyle, 77-73. I'll take half. I'll take the over. I'm not a big game. Kind of like what we were saying, Coyle, this is another team that's got to start making some moves if they're going to want to be, in the bubble conversation, maybe, strengthen their resume for the tournament. And being a Big East guy, when Pitt and Syracuse left for the ACC along with Louisville, the ACC was hoping to get more of Pitt when they were back in like 2011 when they were like a top 10 team. Ever since going to the ACC, Pitt's kind of been irrelevant for the most part, which sucks.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, like Pitt, like all these other big schools, like when they're good, the ACC's been down lately, and Pitt, making a little bit of a resurgence is huge for the conference. So I think they're going to get the win here. It's going to be a packed house. You got a top 25 team coming to you, coming off of an embarrassing loss to Florida State a little while ago. Big game tonight, like you were saying, Coyle, against Wake Forest. But still, this is a massive game for Pitt. Massive stretch coming up, where you win a couple games in a row, you put yourself in position to maybe get a bye, maybe even a double bye in the ACC.
Yeah, like you said, Joe, the ACC is uncharacteristically down this year. I mean, you have Virginia sitting at the top, and then you have some of these middle of the pack in terms of the whole country, like talent-wise and performance-wise where they are. And I think performance-wise, well, Miami's definitely been better than Pitt, but I think Pitt has the grit. Like they come out and they play hard. And in their home gym, should be a packed house. Like you said, I'm going to go with Pitt here. 72, Miami 68. Pitt to cover and take the under. Like you said, those games in the Big East with Pitt, Pitt was tough. Pitt was tough for anyone in the country to beat. Now, I can't remember since Sam Young, DeJuan Blair, when the last time Pitt on a national scene was considered like a great team.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Pitt teams were fun. Levance Fields, I believe the other guy's name was.
Point guard with the dreads, yeah.
Yeah, that was when I first really started getting into it because that's who Villanova beat to go to the Final Four in 2009, I believe it was.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like what? Geez, 14 years.
They had the big guy with the dreads that Kemba Walker crossed up.
Yep. I'll take Miami in this one though. Go against you guys. I'll take them 73-70. So Miami plus 1.5, under 148.5. Just have too many questions right now about this Pitt team. I don't really know what they are. Are they good enough to get in? Are they going to kind of crumble down the stretch? We've seen them over the past few years start out like decent and then just really fall apart come ACC play, but still sitting here 13-7 with a chance to make the tournament come late January. They did just lose to Florida State back last week at home. And then Florida State lost to Miami by 30 the other night. So I don't really know what to kind of expect in this one. Pitt also beat UNC and Virginia back-to-back. But then since then, Those wins were in December, I believe. Their only wins since then are against Louisville and Georgia Tech. So this is a team that might not be playing their best ball right now. Don't really have a great read on them, but I do know what I'm going to get from Miami. I'm going to get a bunch of guards who can go out and score the ball. If one's not playing well, the other one probably is. So when in doubt, I'm going to take Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, and their assortment of guards at the end of the day against a Pitt team that I just have too many questions about right now. So I'd like Miami to go on the road and get the upset victory here. All right, Tony, I saw you say this is your game of the weekend, and it's kind of hard to argue with that one. That's number 10, Texas at 17-3. At number 4, Tennessee, 16-3. 6 o'clock tip on ESPN. Projected score here has Tennessee 72, Texas 63. I'll be really surprised if this is like the actual line when it comes out. But Vols minus 8.5, over under 134.5. Tennessee playing tonight on Wednesday versus Georgia.
Tony, this is your.
Yeah, I think Texas is probably the team that's going to come out on top of the Big 12. Real talented. They got the 2 guards, the transfer Tyrese Hunter from Iowa State, Carr. They got Dylan Mitchell who's flying around. He could jump out of the gym and he'll get there on offense, I think. I think Tennessee is extremely overrated in the SEC. In my opinion, they could be the worst team ranked inside the top 10, whereas I think Texas goes in there and that they're able to pull it out. I know they've had some problems. They've been a little bit up and down like this. I just think they're too talented, and with Kansas struggling a little bit, I could see them coming out of the Big 12. So I'll go Texas 74, Tennessee 69, which that line is somewhat confusing to me. So I'll take the Horns plus 8.5 and the over as well.
Yeah, if that is the line on Saturday, I know I said I'm not going to gamble till the Super Bowl, but I definitely deposit money and take Texas plus 8.5. I just think that's a massive line. And I know, obviously, this is just off of Haslam metrics. I know it's not, the Vegas lines, but Tony, I agree with everything you said. Texas is a really good team that is definitely a sleeper team to make it to the national title game. And I never believe in Tennessee basketball in the long run. I feel like Rick Barnes forever. Coyle, we've talked about him all the time. He'll get in these big spots.
Loses big games.
Exactly. Blow it. It's every year. It's crazy. Coyle, I actually see you have that written down. I'm kind of taking your thunder there. But despite all this, I'm going to take Tennessee to win because I feel like I picked against them, Coyle. I think it was last had Arizona at home, I believe. And I picked Arizona to win, and they proved me wrong. So this can be one of those games I could see Tennessee winning, but then they'll have a couple games down the stretch where they'll just look lost and blow, winnable games. So I'll take Tennessee here, but I'm definitely not a believer in them in any way come March.
Yeah, Tennessee has those occasional lapses, like the Kentucky game for evidence, and they let basically Kentucky kind of get right back into it, and now Kentucky is looking like they could be a dangerous team again. But I'm not a believer in them as well either, Joe. We kind of talk about this a lot for the long haul, but for this game, I like their chances because they're playing at home on their home court. 65-60 Tennessee here, plus so good Texas plus 8.5, under 134.5. As we talked about, not really long-term believers, but another chance for a Rick Barnes revenge game. I think that could just be one of those motivating factors that if the players really love playing for him, this is a program that kind of kicked him to the curb in the past, and now they can go out there and get a win for their coach. Before that home loss to Kentucky, though, for Tennessee, they had won 25 straight at home. I believe that was the biggest or the longest winning streak in the Power Five. So this is one of the most underrated home courts in the country. It never really looks like the most exciting venue, but they have a lot of success there. 6 p.m. a Saturday night down in Knoxville. It should be buzzing, and I think that'll provide them with enough energy to get the job done here. I think it's going to be a physical, lower scoring game. You guys kind of have it more up tempo. I think Tennessee's going to kind of control the tempo and play at their pace on this one. All right. This would have been the game of the week. This probably would have been maybe even the game of the year besides Duke, North Carolina on the schedule at the beginning of the year.
15 years.
It doesn't have as much glamour as it would without the number next to Kentucky's name, but Kentucky turned the corner. Should be a good one. You got number 9 Kansas, 16-4. at Kentucky, who's 14-6, 8 o'clock on ESPN, the final game of this Big 12 SEC Challenge. Haslam's got it at Kansas 72, Kentucky 70. So Kansas minus 2.5, over under 145.5.
Yeah, this is a game where if Kansas wasn't on such a losing skid, as weird as it sounds, I would lean more towards Kentucky. But Kansas just losing 3 straight. I don't even remember the last time they lost 3 straight, let alone 4 straight with Bill Self.
He's never lost. He's never lost 4 straight in his career.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So I'll take the Bucks here, 68-63. Not a lot of analysis. I'm just kind of going based off of I don't see Kansas losing 4 straight games. So I'll take a minus 2.5, under 141. But Coyle, like you said, Tennessee really let this Kentucky team get off the mat. You know, they were coming off a loss to South Carolina at home, which is really embarrassing. Then you go on the road and beat Tennessee. Now, you know, they won 3 straight games after that, 4 straight overall. If they win this game against Kansas, they're all the way back in the conversation for, you know, their goals going forward into March, because after Kansas, there's really not a lot of games on the schedule where you go, oh, that's a definite loss. They have a lot of favorable games to end the schedule. So this is a massive game for Kentucky going forward.
Yeah, this is huge for Kentucky, like you said. I think Kentucky was listed in the last 4 in or last 4 out. I think I saw in bracketology there. So
I believe so. Yeah.
They need to win it, but I do not see Kansas losing 4 in a row, especially to a team they're definitely better than. But like I said earlier, those Big 12 games are like war going in there. Those are real tough physical games. I don't think Kentucky is that. So I'll go with Kansas 74, Kentucky 70. Take Kansas to cover in the over. It's going to be tough for Kansas to deal with Shibwe inside. Kansas doesn't really have a true 5-man. They go in there with KJ Adams, who's big and strong, but I don't know if he's Shibwe strong. So you expect a big night from him, but I think guard play, I think Kansas has enough to take the win.
Yeah, I'm going with Kansas in this one, guys, and I'm taking them pretty much based off the fact that Bill Self has never lost 4 straight games in his career. That's a pretty astonishing stat for as long as he's been in the game and how successful he's been. For him to never lose 4 games in a row in his career is insane, and not a guy that I want to bet against. I feel like, Joe, we might have jinxed him with that stat that he's more likely to, or as likely to lose a home game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse than he is to win a Big 12 title. But I'll still go with Kansas here, going on the road to win this one, covering that 2.5 and under 141.5. Kansas 73, Kentucky 68. So it's either going to be one or two things. That streak lives on, or Kentucky is riding this momentum and breaks that streak. This is a tough one, though. Kentucky picked up that momentum over that Kansas game, and Kansas appears to be going in the opposite direction, and they might have even peaked too soon. But in big games against 2 highly talented teams like this, I think I'm going to turn my attention to the head coach, and which head coach I'd rather have, and that's Bill Self. I think he's going to run circles around Calipari, X's and O's wise in this one. Yeah. I am worried about Oscar having a big game with KJ Adams. Like you were saying, Tony, there's just a difference. He's just more of a man. KJ Adams he's got that toned physique, but he's not defensive lineman like Oscar.
You're right.
And then Cason Wallace, I think he's going to be tasked with just being in Grady Dick's pocket all night and just following him, trailing him off every single screen, not letting him get going. But then you got to look at, all right, then who's guarding Jalen Wilson as well? One of those two, I think, is going to be kind of freed up to have a nice game in this one. So I'm going to go with Kansas to win and Bill Self to continue that streak of never losing 4 games in a row. All right, that's it for Saturday. 2 more games to wrap up the week. We head to Sunday now. Michigan State at 13-7, at number 1, Purdue 19-1. 12:15 tip on CBS. Purdue projected to win this one 79-69, so Purdue minus 9.5, over under 147.5 on Thursday. Both of these teams play. Michigan State playing Iowa, Purdue playing Michigan.
Coyle, this is the perfect game for you to be drinking to, getting ready for your birds on Sunday. This is another game I'm not really going to overthink. I'm going to take Purdue 81, Michigan State 68. They're going to smoke Tom. I think Tom Izzo's starting to get to the point where he's got to get ready to hang him up soon. This is the Big Ten more as a whole might not be the best conference because that is the Big 12, but the Big Ten is going to be one of the most exciting conference tournaments at the end of the season just because of the amount of teams that are going to be towards the bubble and sitting right around the bubble, because you have a lot of teams in the Big Ten that are good, but maybe not great. So I think it's going to be a really exciting conference tournament. I just think picking against Zach Edey and Purdue at home. If this game is at Michigan State, different story. This game being at Purdue is going to make all the difference. Purdue is, that one loss away from Rutgers from being undefeated. So give me Purdue here.
Yeah, I like Purdue as well. I think Edey is dominating his way to a National Player of the Year. He's too big for anyone to handle. And to supplement that, they have solid guard play, and they're knocking down shots and just consistently winning games comfortably. So I'll take Purdue 78, Michigan State 71. So that'll be Michigan State to cover and the over. I think Michigan State just has a tough time getting big-time recruits over the past couple of years. They're just consistently getting these guys who end up being good by the time they're juniors and seniors, complemented by freshmen who aren't great yet. So they've just kind of been stuck in the mud, and then they find a couple wins come March here and there.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, Joe, with the Big Ten Conference Tournament, I'm trying to think, but outside of Purdue, who unless they collapse, they're on pace for probably a 1 or 2 seed. But outside of that, will they have? Do you guys think they'll have anything above a 5? I'm thinking maybe Illinois, maybe Rutgers,
maybe Illinois. I think would be their best bet. But
if Indiana starts winning some games.
Yeah, but I'm saying above a 5,
Oh yeah, not confidently, no way. They have to have a lot of things go right for them to get up to a 5 seed.
But they still could get 8 or 9 teams in, but they could all be between 6 and 11, and maybe even 2 of them in the first 4 or something like that.
Yeah, Ohio State, Penn State's around there. Rutgers has big wins.
Rutgers,
Iowa's like this.
Talking about next, Michigan, Northwestern's 13-5. It's a
deep
big
conference.
Yeah, it's a big hodgepodge in there. So I agree with you, Joe. That's going to be a fun conference tournament. I'll go with Purdue here to win as well, 70-60. Not that much on this one. Purdue minus 9.5, under 147.5. Was watching this game when I shouldn't have been at work a couple weeks ago during the day when they played on MLK Day. But this was just one of those games where Zach Edey just purely dominated just based off his size. Michigan State had a full crowd, all the students off from school. They were all there in the house. And then they go down, they get that late bucket, and then Edey comes down and just gets a dunk on the other end with 2 seconds left to win it. Yeah, just not even exerting any effort. Just one of those games where I think Purdue kind of asserts their dominance and continues their hot play to this season. Malik Hall, major difference maker for Michigan State, and when he's not in the lineup, such a big
swingman.
Yeah, he didn't play a few weeks ago, and he's not playing this week. I don't really see much changes in this one, so Purdue at home here. And final game of the weekend, another Big Ten game between 2 teams that are right there in that Big Ten mix that we were just talking about. Rutgers, who's 14-6, at Iowa, 12-7, 2 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. Iowa projected to win this one at home here, 71-69. So we'll go Iowa minus 2.5, over under 139.5. Iowa playing Michigan State on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa here by a point, 64-63. So I'll take Rutgers cover the 2.5. I'm going to go with the under 139.5. Just feels right. A Sunday, 2 o'clock game. Not many eyes are going to be on it. I just feel like this game could be a rock fight. I'm taking Iowa at home just because they have a 9-2 record at home. Rutgers, only played 5 games, but they are 2-3 on the road. And this is one of those conferences, like I said, and Coyle, like we were just talking about. Outside of Purdue, a lot of these teams are pretty similar. In terms of their seeding, they're going to be all between a 6 seed and an 11, maybe even a 12, depending on how the first 4 breaks out. But I feel like you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be a game or 2 separated, with Purdue just pulling away. And that's how I'm just kind of looking at this game. Iowa, Rutgers, pretty similar teams. This game was at the rack. I would take Rutgers without a question. But this is going to be an Iowa team that's sitting, I believe, at 9th right now in the Big Ten. And you definitely don't want to be playing in that first round game with, I believe it's the 11, 12, 13, and 14th place teams all play. So they're going to try to avoid that, get at least the first bye. And this is an Iowa team, though. If they win and it breaks right, they could be in third place at the end of Sunday, which is crazy just how close the Big Ten is right now.
Yeah.
But give me the Hawkeyes.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Rutgers here, 66, Iowa 65. Rutgers likes to play in tight games, so I'll take Rutgers to cover and the under. These are the most important games, with this being said, for these teams that are so close in the standings. Like, they have to beat each other, because when it comes down to it, these wins are good for your resume because these are quality teams you're beating, and you're giving yourself maybe a day's rest in the Big Ten tournament when you get there with higher seeding. So Rutgers is tough. They play physical, similar like I was saying earlier with Pitt. They have a lot of guys who make winning plays. It's not pretty, but they'll grind one out. So give me Rutgers here.
I'm going to go with Rutgers too, guys. I'll take him 70-67, cover plus 2.5, under 139.5. I'm just not going to go against the kind of grit and I think momentum of this Rutgers program. I hope that I'm not sure like what their financials look like over there, like if they're a wealthy school or not, but I hope they're in a position where they can keep Steve Peichel around, because I think they could be not as good as, but I think he could make them a potential team like a Syracuse or like Villanova, where they had these coaches that not a historical blue blood school, but like a Jay Wright or Jim Boeheim, where Steve Peichel coaches there till he retires, till he doesn't want to anymore, and they're consistently a top 25 team and competing for, Elite 8, Sweet 16s. I'm not sure if they'll ever be able to get to like a Final Four type. But this is a program that just continues to go up. They lost so much talent last year, and here they are right in the thick of things again. They just landed the highest ranked recruit in program history last week, a top 10 guy for the 2024 class, I believe it is. So a program that just has a lot of momentum right now. I think Iowa might be going in the opposite direction, sitting here at 12-7.
Yeah.
Over the past few years, they've been a better program than this. So I like them. I like Rutgers. Go on the road here. I think the next step in the evolution of this program is finding ways to win on the road. Such a dominant team at home, but on the road they're a bit suspect. Let's see if they can change that up here. So I'll take Rutgers to win and to cover that plus 2.5, obviously, and under 139.5.
Yeah, Iowa's been, to me, like, they're not even giving me the chance to believe in them this year.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'm very high on Iowa. They're scoring a lot of points. They're making threes all over the court this year, and I think Fran McCaffrey should get fired. He doesn't. I mean, he hasn't won anything in the tournament. Mm-hmm. He has won a Big Ten tournament, one or two, I believe, but they just lose games they're supposed to win consistently.
It could be one of those things where just a switch up might be needed, but at the same time, it's also Iowa. It's like, I guess, how much are we really expecting out of our basketball program? And they're also like, I feel like a program of like stability, or a athletic program with stability, just because their football coach has been there forever too. It might be one of those things where they don't really like change much.
Yep.
But Joe, what do you think? You think the football coach? I think it might be time for him to hang it up as well. That archaic offense.
Coyle, I mean, you took it straight from me. I was going to say, look what they've done with the football program. Like, Iowa has had defenses that could legitimately have gotten them to the playoff, or even before then in the BCS era, the national title game. They just haven't had an offense.
They haven't had a quarterback.
I remember when I first got into college football, they had a running back. His last name was like Weissman or something, and it was like a fullback, and they always had like Weissman for Heisman because he was the best player on the team. I love seeing the fullbacks as a big guy. I love seeing good fullback play, but when your fullback is your most dynamic player in your offense, there's an issue. There's definitely an issue, but you can make the argument for Iowa basketball that they're one of the more disappointing teams this season. I was definitely expecting them maybe not to be a title contender, but a lot better than 12-7 at this point in the season.
Right. Yeah. They had Chris Murray, who could score. He's like his brother was in the prior years. He could pretty much score from all levels, but it's just nothing. They're getting nothing else.
Well, that'll do it. The only way I guess the show could wrap up was talking Iowa football at the end. So thanks for coming on, Tony. Thanks, Joe. As always.
Thanks for having me.
Any last second comments, guys? But before we head out, Tony, give us your final four before we head out, in case you're not back.
All right, yeah. In case, I like Houston to get there. I think they're probably. It's hard to beat them. They play real hard. Who else do I like to get to the Final Four? I like Texas to get there. They're tough to beat, and they're going to figure it out. Like I said, I think Gonzaga could sneak in there if when their guards figure it out together. The two of them were high recruits coming in. I think they've been playing a little bit better, but they're sneaking under the radar. Gonzaga is, just because we don't hear much of them playing out in that conference. And lastly, maybe Kansas too. I like Kansas a lot. They're real balanced on the outside, and they got the go-to guy. I mean, Jalen Wilson pretty much put his head down, go hard right to the rim anytime he wants. So that's what I got for you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the College Basketball Show here on Beef Up Front. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will talk to you next week.